PHP. PHP Hypertext Processor is a server-side scripting language designed primarily for web development but can also be used as a general-purpose programming language. PHP is a popular language for developing dynamic website, web application, and e-commerce platform. It can be used to handle forms, access database, create and manipulate files, and interact with other services on the web. Additionally, PHP has a large community of developers and wealth of the open source libraries and frameworks, making it easy to build complex web applications quickly and efficiently. Next question. What are the latest version of PHP and what are their new features? PHP 8 released on November 26, 2020. PHP 7.4 2019 28 November, PHP 7.3 December 18. Some new features in PHP include just-in-time compiler for improved performance, union types and named arguments for more flexible type handling, attribute for adding metadata to classes, properties and function, match expression for a more concise alternative to switch statement, improved error handling consistency with return types. Some new features in PHP 7.4 and 7.3 include type properties for better type handling in classes, spread operator for arrays to simplify arrays margin and function cell, preloading for fast scripting execution by keeping frequently used code in memory. Next, what are the difference between PHP 5 and PHP 7? Type declaration. PHP 7 introduced strict typing which allow developers to declare data type for function arguments and return value. This can help catch errors and improve code quality. Scalar type declaration. PHP 7 introduced scalar type declaration allowing developers to specify the type of function argument and returns value for scalar type int, float, string and both. New operation PHP 7 introduced new operation include the null, full casing operator and the specific operator. Unicode support. PHP 7 adds support for Unicode fonts above U plus 4F which make it easier to handle non-Latin character in application. Next, what is a PHP function? A PHP function is a block of code that performs a specific task and can be reused throughout the PHP script. It is a way to modularize code and make it easier to maintain and update. Functions in PHP are defined using the function keyword followed by the function name and any arguments that the function takes. They can be called from anywhere within the PHP script by using the function name and passing any required argument. Function can return a value which can be used in calling code. In PHP, function can also have optional argument, default value for arguments and variable length arguments list. PHP has many built-in functions that perform common tasks such as manipulating strings, working with arrays, and interacting with database. Additionally, developers can create their own custom function to perform tasks specific on their application. Next, what is PHP class? Class is a blueprint for creating objects that encapsulate data and behavior. It defines a set of properties and methods that describe the characters and action of the object that are created from the class. Class in PHP is defined using the class keyword followed by the class name and a set of curly braces that contain the class properties and method. The properties represent the data that is stored within each object, while the method defines the behavior of the object. Objects are created from a class using the new keyword, and each object can have its own unique set of property value. Method can be called the object to perform specific action or retrieve information about the object. Classes in PHP are used to create modular, reusable code that can be reused throughout a PHP application. They provide a way to encapsulate data and behavior, which help to make code more maintainable, scalable, and secure. Next question. What is a PHP interface? Interface is a concept that specifies a set of methods that a class must implement. It defines the signature of the method, but not their implementation. An interface is defined using the interface keyword followed by the interface name and a set of curly braces that contain the method signature classes that implement. An interface must provide an implementation for all of the methods defined in the interface. Interface in PHP are used to define common behavior that can be shared across multiple classes regardless of their implementation. This helps to promote code reusability and make it easier to maintain and extend an application. Next, what is PHP namespace? Namespace is a way to encapsulate code and avoid naming conflict. It allows developers to group related classes, function, and constraint under a common namespace. A namespace is defined using the namespace keyword followed by the namespace name and a set of curly braces that contain the code that is a part of namespace. Code that is not part of namespace is part of global namespace. To access code that is part of namespace, you can use the namespace name followed by the scope resolution operation and the name of the class. Function are constant. This helps to avoid naming conflict and make it easier to organize and maintain code. Namespace in PHP are especially useful in large objects where many developers may be working on the same code base as they help to prevent naming. What is PHP closure? Closure is a type of anonymous function that can be used as a variable or passed as a parameter to other function. It allows developers to create function on the fly without the need of name function. A closure is defined using the function keyword followed by any argument that the function take and function body. It can then be assigned to a variable or passed as a parameter to another function. Closures in PHP are especially useful for functions that require a callback, such as arrays, walk, or arrays filter. They can also be used to create functions that encapsulate logic or provide a more conscious syntax. Closures have access to variables in the parent scope, which make them particularly powerful for creating flexible and reusable code. However, it is important to be careful when closures to avoid unintended side effect or unexpected behavior. Next, what is PHP constructor? Constructor is a special method that is called automatically when an object is created from a class. It is used to initialize the object properties and perform any setup that is required. A constructor method is defined using the constructor keyword followed by any arguments that the constructor take and the code that initialize the object properties. Constructor is called automatically when an object created using the new keyword. Constructors in PHP are used to ensure that an object is properly initialized before it is used, which can help to prevent errors and improve code maintainability. They can also be used to enforce the data validation or perform other setup tasks, such as connecting to a database or setting up a configuration. Next, what is PHP destructor? Destructor is a special method that is called automatically when an object is destroyed. It is used to perform any cleanup or release any resource that the object was using. A destructor method is defined using the destruct keyword followed by any code that need to be executed when the object is destroyed. The destructor is called automatically when the object is no longer in use, such as when it goes out of scope or when the script terminates. Destructors in PHP are used to release resources such as database connection, file handlers, or work socket. They can be used to perform cleanup tasks such as logging or closing open session. It is important to note that if a class does not have a destructor, PHP will provide a default destructor that does nothing. Next, what is magic method? Magic method is a special method that has a specific name and is called automatically by PHP under certain circumstances. Magic method allows developers to define how objects behave in certain situations, such as when they are accessed as any arrays or when they are converted to a string. Magic methods in PHP are useful for creating more flexible and dynamic classes as they allow developers to define custom behaviors for object in name in response to different events or interaction. Next question, acceptation. What is a acceptation in PHP? Acceptation is a way of handling errors or exceptional situations that occur during an execution of a program. When an exception is thrown, it interrupts the normal flow of the program and transfer control to a special block of code called an exception handler. Exceptions are used to handle errors and exceptional situations that cannot be handled by normal error handling mechanism such as returning an error code or printing an error message. Instead, exceptions provide a way to gracefully handle custom exception classes and exception handling code. A throw an exception in PHP. You use the throw keyword followed by an instance of an exception class. You can catch and handle exception using a try catch block, which allow to define custom code to handle a specific exception or group of exception. Next, what is a PHP error? Error is a type of problem or issue that occur during the execution of program that prevent it from running properly. There are several types of errors in PHP, including syntax error, runtime errors, and logic errors. Syntax error occur when the PHP interpreter encounters invalid or incorrect syntax in code, such as missing semicolons or parentheses. These errors prevent the code from being executed and must be fixed before the code end run. Runtime errors occur during an execution of the code and can be caused by a variety of issues, such as incorrect input data or accessing undefined variables or functions. These errors can be handled using error handling mechanisms such as try catch block or custom error handlers. Logical errors occur when the code does not behave as expected or produce incorrect results even through it runs without generating any errors or warning. These errors can be difficult to detect and fix, and many require careful debugging and testing to identify and correct. Errors in PHP are an inevitable part of programming, and learning how to handle and debug errors is an important skill for any PHP developers. By using next question, what is a PHP exception? An exception is a way of handling errors, exceptional situations that occur during the execution of program. When an exception is thrown, it interrupts the normal flow of programming and transfer control to a special block of code called an exception handler. Exceptional exceptions are used to handle error and exceptional situations that cannot be handled by normal error handling mechanisms such as returning an error code or printing error message. Instead, exceptions provide a way to gracefully handle errors and recover from exceptional situations. An exception in PHP use the through keyword followed by an instance of exception class. You can catch and handle exception using a try catch block, which allow to define custom code to handle specific exceptions or group of exceptions. Exceptions in PHP are a powerful and flexible tools for handling errors and exceptional situations and are widely used in modern PHP programming. What is a PHP session? Session is a way of storing data across multiple HTTP requests. When a user visits a website, a unique session is created for them on the server, and session ID is passed back to forth between the server and the client to identify the session. Sessions are used to store user-specific data and need to persist across multiple requests such as login, credential, and shopping cart item. They are also used to maintain the start of an application such as tracking the user progress through a multi-step from a workflow. Session data in PHP is stored on the server, typically in a file or in a database, and is associated with a unique session ID. To start new session in PHP, you use the session start function, which initialize a new session or resume and executing one super global arrays. Sessions in PHP are powerful tools for building dynamic interactive web applications, but they must be used carefully to ensure that sensitive data is protected and that the session data does not become too large or unwieldy. Next, what is a PHP cookie? Cookie is a small piece of data that is stored on the client computer by a website. Cookies are commonly used to store user preference such as language or layout setting or to keep users logged in between sessions. When a user visits a website that uses cookies, the data can send a cookie to users browser using the setCookie function. The cookie is then stored on the user's computer and can be accessed by the website during subsequent visit using superglobal arrays. Cookie in PHP can be set of a variety of parameters such as expiration time, the domain and path where the cookie is valid, and whether the cookie should be sent over secure HTTPS connection only. These parameters allow developers to control the behavior of cookies and connection only cookies and ensure that they are used safely and appropriately. Cookies. Next, what is a PHP file upload? File upload, the processor of transferring a file from client computer to a server using a web form. File uploads are commonly used in web applications for uploading image, videos, and other type of files. To handle file uploads in PHP, you can use the file superglobal arrays, which contains information about the upload files, such as its name, size, and type. You can then move the uploaded file to a specified directory on the server using the move upload files function. Files upload in PHP can be controlled using a variety of parameters such as the maximum file size and allow file type and destination directory. File upload in PHP are powerful tools for building dynamic and interactive web applications, but they must be used carefully to ensure that they do not compromise the security of application on the server. Next question. What is PHP file download? A file download is a process of transferring a file from server to client computer in response to a user request. File download are commonly used in web applications for downloading files such as images, documents, and media files. Handle files download in PHP. You typically set the appropriate header to identify output the file content to the client browser. File downloads in PHP can be controlled using a variety of parameters such as the maximum file size, the allow files type, and the destination directory. File download in PHP are a powerful tools for building dynamic and interactive web application, but they must be used carefully to ensure that do not compromise the security of the application or the server. Next, PHP database connection. Database connection is the process of establishing a connection to a database server in order to interact with the database and retrieve or modify data. Database connections are crucial part of many web applications as they allow developers to store and retrieve data from a persistent data store. Establish a data connection in PHP. You typically use the MySQL or database connection in PHP can be secured by using prepared statement, input validation, and other security measures to prevent SQL injection and other type of attacks. By properly securing data connection, developers can prevent unauthorized access to sensitive data and ensure the integrity of application data. Database connection in PHP are a critical part of building dynamic and interactive web application. Next, PHP prepared statement. Prepared statement is a feature of database connection that allows developers to send SQL queries to a database server in safe and efficient manner. Prepared statements are used to prevent SQL injection attack where molecules users can insert SQL code into user input file, execute harmful commands on the database. Use a prepared file statement in PHP. You typically create a SQL statement which placeholders for user input such as our name. You then prepare the statement using the prepare method. Bind the user input to the placeholders using the bind param. Next, PHP PDO. PDO stands for PHP Database Object, which is a database access layer that provides a consistent interface for accessing database. PDO allows developers to connect to a wide range of databases, including MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, and more using a unfed set of functions and methods. PDO provides many benefits over traditional database access method in PHP, including improved security through prepared statement and parameters. Queries improve performance through statement caching and improved flexibility through the users of different database types. To use PDO in PHP, developers create new PDO object and specify the database connection details, including the database driver, host, username, password, and database name. They can then use PDO method of interact with. PDO is a powerful tool for building secure and reliable database application in PHP, and its flexibility and easy for use make it popular choice of many developers. Next, PHP ORM. ORM stands for Object Relational Mapping, which is a technique for mapping database table to class and object in an object-oriented programming language like PHP. An ORM allows developers to interact with database using familiar object-oriented syntax and concept, making it easier to build complex database-driven applications. ORMs provide a number of benefits over traditional database access method in PHP, including improved post organization, reduced boilerplate code, and increased productivity through simplified data access and manipulation. ORMs typically provide features like automatic data mapping between database table and object support for database relationship and query generation tools. There are several popular ORM frameworks available for PHP, including Dictionary Properly and Eloquent. Each framework provides its own set of features and benefits, allow developers to choose the ORM that best meet the needs for their applications. ORM is a powerful tool for building complex and scalable database-driven applications in PHP. Their use can greatly improve developers' productivity and code maintainability. Next question. PHP Templates Engine. Templates engine is a tool that separates presentation logic from business logic in a web application by allow developers to define reusable templates for displaying data. Template engine provide a way to create dynamic web page that can be customized based on user input or other factors. Templates engine typically provide features like variable substitution, conditional statement, loops, and parter templates, making it easy to create complex HTML page using simple PHP code. By separating presentation Logic from business logic. Templates engine help to keep code organized and easier to maintain over time. Some popular PHP templates engine include Smarty, Twig, and Blade. Each templates engine has its own syntax and features, allowing developers to choose the one that best fits their need and preference. Templates engines are useful to building dynamic and flexible web applications in PHP, and their use can greatly improve code organization and maintainability. Next, PHP framework. PHP framework is a pre-built software platform that provides a set of tools and libraries for building web applications. Frameworks are provide a standard way to organize code, manage dependencies, and handle common tasks like database access, authentication, and routing. PHP framework come in a variety of flavors, ranging from lightweight micro framework like Slim and Lumen to full stack framework like Laravel, Symfony, Laravel and Symfony. Each framework provides its own set of features and benefits, allow developers to choose the one that best meet the need of their application. Some common features of PHP framework include MVC architecture, database abstraction layers, routing templating engine, and testing framework. By providing these features, out of the box framework can greatly speed up and development process and improve code quality and maintainability. PHP frameworks are used powerful tools for building complex and scalable web application, and their use can greatly improve developers' productivity and code quality. Next, what is PHP MVC? MVC stands for Model View Controller, which is design pattern used to organize code in web application. The MVC pattern separates an application into three main components. Model. Model represent the data and business logic of application. This component is responsible for querying the database and providing data to the rest of application. View. The view is responsible for display data to the user. This component is tightly implemented using HTML templates and can be customized based on user input or other factor. Controller. Controller is responsible for handling user input and managing interaction between the model and the view. The component is responsible for routing requests to the appropriate action and updating the models as needed. Separating these components by MVC pattern make it easier to maintain and test code by minimizing dependencies and promoting modularity. Many PHP works such as Laravel and Symfony use to MVC pattern as foundation of their architecture. Overall, MCV pattern is powerful tools for building scalable and maintain web application in PHP. Next, what is PHP REST API? PHP REST API is a web service that uses the principle of representational state transfer to expose a set of HTTP endpoints that can be used to retrieve or manipulate data. PHP REST API each endpoint corresponds to specific Source and request to these endpoints are made using standard HTTP method like get, post, put, or and delete. REST PHP REST API are commonly used to provide data to client applications such as mobile application, app, or web application. The API provides a standard way to these applications to access data regardless of the underlying database or data source. PHP REST API, the server-side host, is responsible for processing incoming requests, retrieving or modifying data as needed. The returning response in standard format such as JSON or XML. Common PHP framework like Laravel and Symfony provide built-in tools for building REST API, making it easier to handle common tasks like authentication, request validation, and response formatting. Next, PHP SOAP API. What is a PHP SOAP API? SOAP API is a web service that uses the simple object access protocol to exchange data over the internet. SOAP is a protocol that defines a standard format of XML based message which can be used to transfer data between application and regardless of other underlying programming language or platform. PHP SOAP API is server-side code responsible for exposing a set of methods or functions that can be called the client application. These methods are typically defined in a web service description language files which describe the input and output parameters of each method. Client application can use SOAP client library to send requ- SOAP request to the server and receive responses in the specific format. PHP provides built-in support for SOAP through the SOAP extension, which allow developers to create and consume SOAP service using standard PHP code. Next, what is a PHP web service? Web service is a software system designed to support interoperable machine-to-machine interaction over a network, typically using standard web protocol like HTTP and XML. In a PHP web service, a server-side script exposes a set of function or method that can be accessed by client application using standard web protocols. PHP web service can take many forms such as REST API, SOAP service, or XML RPC interface. The specific implementation will depend on the needs of the application and the requirement of the client application that will be accessing the service. Common use case of PHP web service include providing access to data from a database, integrating with third-party API or service, or exposing functionality from an existing application such as service for other application to use. Overall, PHP service provide a powerful and flexible way to create interoperational. Next, PHP unit test. Unit test is a type of automated test that verifies the correction are individual units of code in PHP application. Unit tests are designed to test small isolated pieces of code such as function, method or classes in PHP to ensure that they produce the expected output for a given input. PHP unit test developers typically write test code using a testing framework such as PHP unit, which provide a set of assertions and testing utilities. that make it easy to write and run tests for PHP code. Tests are typically organized into test suites, which group related tests together and provide a way to PHP code coverage tools. Coverage tools is a type of software that measure how much of a PHP application code base is exercised by automated test and generate report. Code coverage tools work instrumented and PHP code to track which lines and branches are executed during the test run. They then use this information to generate report that show the percentage of the code base that has been covered by test and highlight area of the code that are not being tested. Common PHP code cover tools including PHP unit, code coverage features, Xdebug, and codeception. These tools can be integrated into a continuum. Integration continuous development CI or CD pipeline to automatically generate code coverage reports for each builds, helping developers to identify area of the code that require additional testing or ensuring that the code base is thoroughly tested before it develops to production. Next, PHP debug tools. Debugging tools is type of software tools that helps developers identify and fix bugs and errors in PHP applications. Debugging tools allow developers to inspect the state of their application at runtime, view variables and functions, call the step through code and identify the root. There are several types of PHP debugging tools available, including integration development environment with built-in debugging capabilities such as PHP Storm and NetBeans, standalone debuggers such as Xdebug and ZenDebugger, which can be integrated with an IDE are used on their own. Profiles such as the Blackfire and Typeways which provide detail. Next, PHP Profiler. Profiler is a type of software that helps developers optimize the performance of their PHP application. Profiles work by monitoring and execution of PHP code and provide details analysis of its performance characterized such as memory use, function call frequency, and execution time. Profiling tools allow developers to identify performance bottleneck and optimize their code accordingly. They can help to identify slow or insufficient code, highlight memory leak or and other resource issue and suggest improvement to optimize the performance of application. There are several PHP profiling tools available including Xdebug, Blackfire, Tideway, and the built-in profiling functionality in the Jet framework. These tools can be integrated into a development environment or used standalone to provide details, performance, and analysis and profiling of PHP application. What is PHP? PHP code PHP security vulnerability. PHP security vulnerability is a flow of weak and PHP application that can be exploited by attackers to gain unauthorized access to data or system or, or to carry out Other malicious activities common type of PHP security vulnerabilities include SQL injection across site scripting, XSS, file inclusion vulnerabilities, and code injection attacks. The vulnerabilities can be introduced by errors in PHP code, such as failing to properly sanitize input